Hello and welcome back to another DLC. I'm your host today, Joey, and we are covering a game called Cubic Odyssey, which was developed by Atypical Games, and we kindly received a review copy of the game from Atypical Games and our friends over at Game Press. We love doing these reviews. Let us know how you feel about them too. So this review is going to be broken up a little bit different. We're going to be looking at Cubic Odyssey. It's a pixel-based adventure game that on the surface looks very familiar, but actually tries to do something a little bit more different to carve its own space into the sandbox genre. And the questions I'm going to ask today ultimately will answer, is it worth your time? So, I'm going to break this down into a few questions, starting with what is Cubic Odyssey? Cubic Odyssey is an indie sandbox adventure game which is made up of many cubes, but unlike a lot of traditional sandbox titles, this one has a heavier emphasis on structure, progression and narrative instead of being left entirely on your own. The game frames itself as an odyssey and it's a journey with a clear sense of direction. You still have the freedom to explore, build, experiment, but there's a stronger backbone here with quests, puzzles and world building that give a better experience and more shape than a purely open-ended sandbox. What is the story of Cubic Odyssey? Unlike a lot of other sandbox crafting games, Cubic Odyssey has a story. You play as an explorer tasked with restoring balance to a fractured world. Each biome on the world represents part of that journey, and it offers unique challenges, environments, and bits of lore for you to discover. The game gives you a really good sense of progression. You're not just moving from one biome to another for resources, you are uncovering what is essentially a larger puzzle. Whilst the writing itself isn't groundbreaking, it does keep you invested enough to create a sense of purpose that other similar games lack. So do I think you should play Cubic Odyssey? The biggest reason to try it is its focus on exploration with intent. Many sandbox games rely really heavily on the player just making up their own goals, which can be freeing but also quite overwhelming. Here, you are guided without being overly restricted, which makes the experience much more approachable for players who want a little bit more direction within their crafting game. The world design is a particular strength. Each biome feels particularly distinct and the visual style, whilst obviously limited by the cubic Lego Minecraft design, is colourful and varied enough to stay engaging. There are environmental puzzles and hidden secrets that reward curiosity, which helps maintain momentum. And finally, it strikes a really good balance between accessibility and depth. You don't have to be a veteran of the genre to play it, but there is enough challenge to keep you engaged if you are. So in the last section I used a word that I think it's impossible not to use when talking about Cubic Odyssey, and that is Minecraft. It is impossible to think about Cubic Odyssey without comparing it to Minecraft. Both are voxel based, both let you build, both feature survival mechanics, but the biggest difference here is the design philosophy of the game. Minecraft is a sandbox first. It started off as a sandbox and was built upon so that it had a story and a, in quote marks, endgame. It thrived on limitless freedom and player creativity. Cubic Odyssey is much more structured. It wants to guide you through a much more curated experience. Think of it less as an open canvas and more as an RPG-inspired journey where the sandbox tools support the adventurer rather than being the adventure. This doesn't necessarily mean one is better than the other, but what it does mean is that Cubic Odyssey targets a different audience. If you want endless creativity and emergent gameplay, Minecraft remains unmatched. If you want more narrative-driven progression in a blocky world, Cubic Odyssey has something unique here to offer. So the question I have is, would I recommend the game? And I think the answer to that depends entirely what you're looking for. If you're looking for a sandbox with structure, something that guides you while you're still looking to experiment with crafting, then yeah, this game is probably worth considering. It delivers an engaging adventure with enough variety to hold your attention for quite a few hours. On the other hand, If your enjoyment of these crafting games stems entirely from the unlimited building and survival freedom, then you might find the structure here is a bit more limiting. The story and quests are a highlight for some players, but I think some looking at it would find them unnecessary or even distracting from the core mechanics. And if you looked at the Steam page, I think it would be impossible not to draw the comparison. I think a lot of people will go into this expecting Minecraft and getting a different experience. Overall, I think Cubic Odyssey isn't trying to replace Minecraft, it's trying to fill a niche, and in that regard, I think it's pretty successful. It feels like a well fleshed out Minecraft mod. One of the biggest difference to Minecraft, which they are very keen to push on the advertising of the game, you're not limited to the world that you're on. Cubic Odyssey allows you to leave the Earth. There are epic space missions, there are battles with aliens, you can fight dinosaurs on the planet. It feels like a world has been created here, but created for you rather than one that you've created yourself. So in summary, I think Cubic Odyssey is a thoughtfully designed crafting adventure that blends the creativity of Sandbox with a more directional RPG. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. The story can feel quite light in places, and some players may wish for more freedom, but it does offer a refreshing take on a genre that often relies on player imagination alone. I think if you value exploration with a purpose, maybe check out the Steam page. The game has been out since May 2025 and is available on Steam. Once again, thank you to our friends over at Atypical Games and Game Press for the review copy. If you've played Cubic Odyssey, let us know in our Discord what you thought. I've been Joe Fitz, and I hope you enjoyed this review.